The leather seats of my father's Mercedes felt cold against my back as I sat in the parking lot of Le Blanc, San Francisco's most exclusive restaurant. Through the tinted windows, I watched well-heeled diners enter the establishment, their jewelry catching the light from the ornate entrance fixtures. 20 minutes ago, I'd been walking toward those same doors with my family, wearing a designer dress that cost more than most people's monthly salary. But appearance wasn't why I was sitting in the car like a scolded teenager. "Wait in the car," Dad had hissed, his hand firm on my arm. "We need these investors, Alexandra. We can't risk anything going wrong." By anything, he meant me. Alexandra Mitchell, the family disappointment, the daughter who'd walked away from the family's investment firm to find herself. At least that's how they painted it. I glanced at my phone, 3 angry texts from my younger sister Diana. "How could you embarrass us like this? The Kingstons are here. Dad's trying to save the firm and you're being selfish again." The last message made me laugh. If they only knew who really owned Kingston Enterprises now. 5 years ago I'd left Mitchell Investment Group, refusing to join the family legacy. A phase, Mom had called it. "She'll come crawling back," my brother Marcus had sneered. Instead I'd built something they couldn't begin to comprehend. My phone buzzed again, this time a different message from my executive assistant. "Kingston Enterprises acquisition papers are ready for final signing. Board meets in 30 minutes. Where are you?" I smiled, checking my reflection in the rearview mirror. My father had always said timing was everything in business. He was about to learn how right he was. Stepping out of the car, I straightened my Chanel dress and headed toward the restaurant. The maitre d' recognized me immediately. "Ms. Mitchell. Your usual table." "Not tonight, Pierre. I believe my family is dining with the Kingstons." His eyes widened slightly. "Yes, of course. Right this way." As we approached the private dining room, I could hear my father's voice, that smooth tone he used when closing deals. Kingston Enterprises would benefit immensely from our expertise. Mitchell Investment Group has been managing portfolios for 3 generations. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door. The scene before me froze like a tableau. My father mid-gesture, wine glass in hand. Mom perfectly coiffed, her smile slipping slightly. Diana and Marcus, both looking like they'd swallowed lemons. And across from them, Richard Kingston Sr., CEO of Kingston Enterprises, rising from his chair with a look of surprise. "Madam President," he said, bowing slightly. "I didn't know this was your family." The silence that followed was deafening. "Richard," I nodded, walking to the empty seat at the head of the table, my father's usual position. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Alexandra," Dad's voice was strained. "What are you doing?" "Joining my family for dinner," I replied smoothly. "And meeting with my CEO apparently." "Your CEO?" Marcus choked on his wine. Richard Kingston Sr. looked between us, realization dawning. "They don't know." "Know what?" Mom's voice had that dangerous edge. I reached into my Hermes bag and pulled out a folder, sliding it across the table to my father. "The papers finalizing Kingston Enterprises acquisition. I just need your signature, Richard." "Of course, Madam President." He reached for his pen. "Stop." Dad's hand slammed down on the folder. "What is this?" "This," I said calmly, "is business. Something you taught me very well, Dad. Though perhaps not in the way you intended. The story of how I got here, how I went from family disappointment to owning one of the largest corporate conglomerates in the country, began the day I walked away from Mitchell Investment Group. But it really started long before that, in the shadow of my father's empire. Growing up, the Mitchell name meant something in financial circles. Dad had taken his father's investment firm and transformed it into a powerhouse. Every dinner conversation revolved around markets, mergers, and millions. My siblings absorbed it all, eager to claim their predetermined roles. But I saw something they didn't. While they were learning to maintain the old ways, I was watching the future unfold. Tech startups, digital currencies, artificial intelligence. The landscape was changing, but Mitchell Investment Group remained stubbornly traditional. "The old ways work," Dad would say, dismissing my suggestions for modernization. "We don't chase trends." So I left. Took my trust fund, significantly smaller than my siblings' inheritances, and started investing in tech startups. Dad called it gambling. I called it the future. My first big break came with a small AI company developing algorithmic trading systems. While Mitchell Investment Group relied on human analysts, I bet on machine learning. Within 2 years, my returns were outperforming my father's firm by 300%. But I kept quiet, operating through shell companies and holding corporations. The world knew me only as AM Holdings, a mysterious entity rapidly acquiring tech companies and transforming traditional businesses. When Kingston Enterprises announced they were looking for investors, Mitchell Investment Group saw an opportunity to save their declining portfolio. What they didn't know was that AM Holdings had already acquired a controlling interest through calculated microtransactions over the past year. The acquisition papers are just a formality, I explained to my stunned family. Kingston Enterprises has been mine for months. Today just makes it official. Impossible, Marcus sputtered. You couldn't afford. You don't have the resources. Holdings, Dad whispered, face pale. Alexandra Mitchell. We've been competing against you this whole time. Not competing, Dad. Winning. Diana stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. This is another one of your stunts. You're lying. Richard Kingston Sr. cleared his throat. I assure you she's not. Your sister has revolutionized our company. Our value has tripled since she began acquiring shares. But you threw away everything, Mom said, her perfect composure cracking. The firm, the family legacy. No, I corrected her. I built something better. While you were all protecting the past, I was investing in the future. I turned to my father, whose hands were trembling slightly as he read through the acquisition papers. Remember when you told me I'd never understand real business? That I was too focused on internet companies instead of real investments. He didn't respond, still staring at the documents that proved how wrong he'd been. Those internet companies now form the largest tech conglomerate in the country. My AI trading systems manage more money in a day than Mitchell Investment Group handles in a year. And now, I gestured to the papers, I own the company you were desperately trying to impress tonight. The waiter appeared with champagne. I'd arranged it beforehand, knowing how this evening would unfold. As he poured, I watched my family struggle to process their new reality. What happens now? Dad finally asked, his voice hollow. I picked up my champagne glass, studying the bubbles rising to the surface. Well, now we discuss the future of Mitchell Investment Group. After all, I smiled, remembering all the times they'd dismissed me. I believe in keeping things in the family. The morning after the dinner at Le Blanc, I sat in my penthouse office on the 50th floor of what was once Kingston Tower, now Mitchell Innovation Center. The city sparkled below, fog rolling beneath the Golden Gate Bridge as the sun rose. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since last night. 37 missed calls from family members, countless texts, and several desperate emails from Mitchell Investment Group's board members. News travels fast in financial circles, and the revelation that AM Holdings was owned by the wayward Mitchell daughter had sent shockwaves through Wall Street. Your brother is in the lobby, my AI assistant, Aria, announced through the office speakers. He's demanding to see you. Shall I have security escort him out? I checked the security feed. Marcus looked disheveled, his usually impeccable suit wrinkled, his hair uncombed. A far cry from the polished managing director of Mitchell Investment Group. Let him up, I decided. And Aria, pull up the latest valuation reports for Mitchell Investment Group. Marcus burst into my office minutes later, clutching a newspaper. The headline read, Tech Titan Alexandra Mitchell reveals identity. AM Holdings acquires Kingston Enterprises in historic deal. How long? He demanded, throwing the paper on my desk. How long have you been plotting this? I gestured to the visitor's chair. Sit down, Marcus. You look terrible. Don't patronize me. But he sat anyway, running a hand through his messy hair. Dad hasn't slept. The board is in chaos. Our clients are calling non-stop, asking about the rumors. What rumors? That you're planning to dissolve Mitchell Investment Group. That this whole thing was revenge. I pulled up a holographic display showing real-time market data. Look at these numbers, Marcus. Your client portfolio has been declining for 3 years. Your technology is outdated. Your methods are obsolete. We have tradition. Tradition doesn't make money, I cut him off. While you and Dad were clinging to old methods, I built an empire using artificial intelligence, blockchain, and predictive analytics. The world changed, but Mitchell Investment Group didn't. So you're destroying us? Your own family? I stood, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows. Remember when I was 16 and I presented my first investment strategy to Dad? I'd spent weeks researching emerging tech companies, creating detailed analysis models. You laughed and called it my cute little project. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. We were kids. No, you were the golden child and I was the dreamer. When I suggested modernizing the firm's approach, Dad shut me down. When I warned about the rise of algorithmic trading, you all dismissed me. So yes, I left. But I didn't set out to destroy anything. I set out to build something better. My phone buzzed. Diana was here too. Send her up, I told Arya. Diana entered more cautiously than Marcus had, her designer heels clicking on the marble floor. Her eyes widened at the state-of-the-art office, taking in the holographic displays and the panoramic view. This is impressive, she admitted. Sit down, Diana. We need to talk about the future of Mitchell Investment Group. She joined Marcus on the visitor's couch, both of them looking lost in the gleaming temple of modern finance I'd built. First, I pulled up another holographic display. Let me show you what real innovation looks like. The air filled with streaming data, AI-driven market predictions, and real-time trading algorithms. My siblings watched, mesmerized, as billions of dollars moved through our systems. This is what I tried to bring to the family firm. This is what Dad rejected. We get it, Marcus snapped. You're successful. You proved your point. What do you want? I want to save Mitchell Investment Group. They stared at me. But only, I continued, if you're willing to change. Really change. Before they could respond, Arya announced another visitor. He walked in slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Gone was the commanding presence, the unwavering confidence. He carried a thick folder. Documents I recognized from my childhood. Your proposals, he said quietly, placing the folder on my desk. Every innovation you suggested, every modernization plan you presented. I kept them all. Dad. I was wrong, he interrupted. I was so focused on preserving what my father built that I couldn't see the future right in front of me. Couldn't see what you could become. Diana stood up. What are you saying? I'm saying, Dad took a deep breath, that Mitchell Investment Group needs Alexandra. Not as an enemy but as its leader. Marcus jumped up. What? But I'm managing director. The succession plan dash. The succession plan was wrong. Dad cut him off. Look around you, Marcus. Your sister built this while we weren't watching. She turned her trust fund into a tech empire. Meanwhile, our firm is bleeding clients and falling behind. I pressed a button, darkening the windows and activating a large screen. Let me show you something. Charts appeared showing Mitchell Investment Group's declining performance alongside AM Holdings' meteoric rise. In 5 years, I explained, my company has achieved what Mitchell Investment Group couldn't in 3 generations. Not because I'm smarter but because I was willing to evolve. So what's your plan? Diana asked quietly. A complete transformation. Mitchell Investment Group becomes a subsidiary of AM Holdings. We integrate my AI systems, modernize your operations and retrain your team. And us. Marcus's voice was small. You have choices to make, I said. You can fight this change and watch the firm die slowly, or you can learn. Really learn. Start from the bottom, understand the new technology, earn your positions. Dad sat heavily in a chair. And me? You'll be chairman emeritus. Advisory role only. It's time to let go, Dad. He nodded slowly, years of resistance crumbling in the face of undeniable reality. There's one condition, I added. No more family hierarchy. No more dismissing ideas because they're new or different. We build this together or not at all. The silence stretched as they considered my offer. Outside, the sun had fully risen, painting the city in golden light. Finally, Diana spoke. Teach me. Everything you know about the new systems, the technology. I want to learn. Marcus looked between us, then at the displays showing his sister's success. Me too. I want to understand. Dad stood, walking to the windows. I spent years trying to force you all into roles I chose. Alexandra, you were the only one brave enough to refuse. To find your own path. He turned back to us. Maybe it's time we all found new paths. I pressed another button, bringing up the contracts I'd had prepared. Welcome to the future of Mitchell Innovation Group. One by one they signed. Not just contracts but a new beginning. A transformation of not just our business but our family. 6 months later I stood in the same office, watching Marcus present his first AI-driven investment strategy. Diana had mastered blockchain technology and was revolutionizing our client relations. Dad, freed from the burden of control, had become a valued advisor, his experience finally balanced with innovation. The old Mitchell Investment Group sign had been replaced with a sleek new logo, Mitchell Innovation Group, a division of AM Holdings. But more importantly, the old family dynamics had been replaced too. My phone buzzed. A message from Dad. Family dinner tonight? Your choice of restaurant this time. I smiled, remembering that night at Le Blanc. Yes, I typed back. And this time, everyone has a seat at the table. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying what hurt you. It's transforming it into something better. Something that could only exist because you were strong enough to walk away, smart enough to build something new, and generous enough to bring everyone along when you succeeded. The future belonged to those brave enough to create it. And finally, my family was ready to join me there.